Shadows Without a Name. Chapter 5. The Double. Andrey did not leave the hidden room immediately. He stood in the center of it, surrounded by photographs, notes, lines, numbers, arrows, names and dates that all seemed to breathe in silence around him. The room had no window, no clock, no ordinary sign that time existed inside it. Only evidence, only structure, only him. At first, he looked at the faces, the missing, the forgotten, the ones whose names had become files, whose lives had been reduced to timestamps, locations, last messages, and final sightings. Katya Ivanova was there. Her photograph was pinned slightly to the left of the central board. In the official case file, she had looked like a victim, blurred by rain, frozen by a street camera, reduced to the final minute of her known existence. But here, in this room, she looked different. Not less afraid, less random. There were markings around her photograph, 3 circles, 2 dates, a line leading from her name to another name Andrey did not recognize, then another line, then another, until eventually, like every other line in the room, it led back to the center, to him. Andrey stepped closer, his own photograph stared back. It was not the photograph that disturbed him most. It was his expression, calm, focused, certain. There was no panic in his face, no confusion, no sign of a man being forced into something he did not understand. That face belonged to someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Andrey had seen many kinds of guilt. He had seen guilt wrapped in anger, guilt hidden behind arrogance, guilt buried under tears, denial, silence, sarcasm, religion, alcohol, and rehearsed explanations. This was not guilt. This was control. He leaned closer to the image. The angle suggested surveillance, high position, slight distortion at the edges. The photograph had been taken indoors, in a room with harsh overhead lighting. His right hand was extended forward. His left hand was holding someone by the shoulder, not violently, precisely, as if positioning them, as if preparing them. "No," Andrey said quietly, but the word had no strength. It was not refusal. It was delay. He turned away from the photograph and forced himself to study the room as a system, not as an accusation. That was the only way to survive it. Emotion creates blindness. Structure reveals. He began at the left wall. The first cluster showed 4 victims. Katya was the newest. The others had dates beside them going back several weeks. Each had received the same message. "You've already forgotten, haven't you?" But beneath each message was another notation written by hand. Response window. Andrey frowned. Under Katya's name, 43 seconds. Under another victim, 1 minute, 12 seconds. Under the third, 29 seconds. Under the fourth, no response. He stared at the phrase, response window, not time of disappearance, not time of death. Response. As if the message had not been sent to frighten them, as if it had been sent to measure something. He moved to the next cluster. More photographs, different people, different ages, a woman in a grey coat, a man with a scar near his eyebrow, an elderly professor, a young nurse. Beside each photograph, numbers, behavioral notes, tiny observations written in tight, disciplined handwriting, delayed recognition, panic suppressed, verbal confirmation, no verbal confirmation, subject attempted escape, subject complied, subject remembered too early. Andrey felt something cold move through him. Subject, not victim, subject. He knew that language. He had used that kind of language, not in police reports, in controlled environments, in rooms where human behavior was not described morally, but functionally. He stepped back. The hidden room seemed smaller now, the air heavier. His phone vibrated. The sound was brief, sharp. He did not look at it. Not yet. He already knew the message would not help him. It would lead him. And right now, he needed to know whether he was still capable of choosing where to look. He moved to the center table. There were folders arranged in a neat stack. Not hidden, placed, waiting. The top folder had no name, only a symbol. A small circle broken by a vertical line. He opened it. Inside were printed stills from the video he had just watched in the hidden room. The video where a version of himself entered a room, approached a bound victim, and pressed a device against their neck. The first still showed the victim struggling. The second showed Andrey entering. The third showed the device. The fourth showed the moment after, the victim's eyes open, empty, alive perhaps, but absent. Andrey stared at the fourth image longer than the others. There are many ways for a person to disappear. The body is only one of them. He turned the page. A diagram. The device. Side view. Internal mechanism partially labeled. Neural access disruption. Temporary memory isolation. Trigger response mapping. He read the words slowly. Not because they were difficult, because they were familiar, too familiar. He could almost hear himself explaining them. Not now, not in the room, somewhere else, a white room, a glass wall, someone taking notes. His own voice lower, clinical. We don't erase memory, we control access. Andrey's hand tightened on the page. The memory vanished before he could reach the rest of it, like a door closing. His phone vibrated again. This time he looked. Unknown sender, no number. The message read, "You remember the language?" Andrey stared at it, then typed nothing. He would not answer, not yet. The phone vibrated again. "You always remember the language first." He placed the phone face down on the table. The room did not feel silent anymore. It felt monitored. He looked up slowly. Corners, ceiling, ventilation grill, smoke detector, the small dark gap above the door. He searched without moving too quickly. There, near the ceiling, above the central board, a lens, tiny, almost invisible, not hidden from a technician, hidden from a man who was distracted. Andrey stepped beneath it, looked directly into it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his phone vibrated again. You found it faster this time. Andrey's expression did not change. This time, again, before. Every phrase implied repetition, every repetition implied prior failure. He took a chair from the corner, placed it beneath the camera, stepped onto it, and pulled the device free from the wall. It came away too easily. No alarm, no resistance. Another object meant to be found. He examined it in his hand. No manufacturer marking, no serial number. Custom. He placed it on the table beside the folder. "You wanted me to find the room," he said quietly. No answer. "You wanted me to find the video." Still nothing. "You wanted me to find the camera." The phone remained silent. Andrey looked at the central photograph again. "Then what don't you want me to find?" That was the question, not what had been shown, what had been withheld. He returned to the wall. This time, he ignored the center. He looked at the edges. People hide truth in margins, not because they are careless, because they know attention naturally moves toward the obvious. The central board was accusation. The corners would be confession. On the far right wall, nearly hidden behind a loose sheet of plastic, he found a smaller cluster of images. No names, no dates, just photographs taken from security footage. a hallway, a medical room, a parking garage, a police archive, and in every image the same figure appeared. At first glance it looked like him, same height, same build, same posture, same controlled stillness. But Andrey did not trust first glances. He studied the details. The shoulders were nearly identical, the walking pattern close, the head angle familiar. But there was something wrong. He leaned closer. In one photograph, the man's left hand was visible. Andrey looked at his own hand, then back at the image. No scar. Andrey had a thin scar across the base of his thumb. Old, pale, almost invisible unless the light hit it correctly. The man in the photograph did not. Andrey's breathing slowed. Not relief. Something sharper. Possibility. He checked the next photograph. The figure's face was turned slightly away, but the jawline matched. Almost. The eyes were not visible, the mouth was. Andrey touched his own lower lip. There was a small asymmetry there, barely noticeable. The man in the image did not have it. He was similar, too similar, but not exact. Andrey whispered the word before he fully accepted it. Double. The phone vibrated. He did not look immediately. This time the message could wait. He pulled the loose sheet away from the wall completely. Behind it was a narrow board, different from the others, less organized, more recent. Photographs pinned quickly, notes written with pressure deep enough to tear the paper. One phrase repeated 3 times. Not him, not him, not him. And beneath it a question, if not him, then who? Andrey stared at the handwriting. It was his, no doubt, but less controlled, urgent, almost desperate. He pulled one of the photographs from the board, a blurred image of the double leaving a building. Timestamp, 2 days before Katya disappeared. Another image, the same figure, entering a restricted archive. Another, standing near Andrey's apartment building. Another, outside the station, watching, not approaching, watching. Andrey felt the shape of the case change. Until now, every clue had pointed inward, toward guilt, toward responsibility, toward him. But guilt is only useful if it is accurate. If someone wanted him to believe he was the center, they would build a room like this. They would fill it with photographs. They would use his handwriting, his language, his methods, his fear. But one thing remained difficult to fake: biology. DNA. He looked back at the central photograph, then at the image of the double, then at his own hands. His phone vibrated. He picked it up. Message: "You are trying to escape the conclusion." Andrey smiled faintly. Not with amusement, with recognition. "No," he said, "I'm testing it." Another message arrived almost immediately. "You already tested it." Andrey's eyes narrowed. A third message. "You didn't like the result." Silence returned. For the first time he felt something close to anger. Not because the messages were taunting him, because they knew where to press. He placed the phone down and returned to the folder. There had to be something else. He turned page after page. Medical diagrams, victim profiles, response windows, sequence charts. Then he found a sealed envelope taped to the inside of the back cover. It was addressed in his handwriting. "To me, if I deny it." He stared at the words, then opened it. Inside was a single photograph. No notes, no explanation, just an image of a crime scene. Rain, police tape, a body-shaped outline marked on wet ground, and at the edge of the frame, a hand. His hand, the scar visible, clear, undeniable. Andrey did not move. The room seemed to withdraw around him. The double had no scar, but the hand in the photograph did, which meant the answer was not simple, not framed, not innocent, not guilty. Both. He turned the photograph over. There was a message written on the back. Not printed, written. Again, his handwriting. If there is a double, it means I made room for him. Andrey read the sentence once, then again. He understood every word, but not yet the meaning. He folded the photograph carefully and placed it in his coat pocket. Then he gathered 3 things from the room: the camera, the folder, the photograph of the double. He left the rest. Not because it didn't matter, because it mattered too much, and if he stayed any longer, the room would stop being evidence. It would become a confession. At the threshold, he paused, looked back. The central photograph remained on the wall, his face, his eyes, his certainty. For one moment, Andrey had the strange and terrible feeling that the man in the photograph was not frozen at all, that he was waiting. Andrey closed the hidden door. The apartment returned to silence, but now he knew the silence had layers. Some belonged to the room, some belonged to memory, and some belonged to the thing watching him move through both. His phone vibrated one last time before he reached the front door. Message: go to the lab. Andrey looked at it, then slipped the phone into his pocket. For once, he would follow the instruction, not because he trusted it, because he had already reached the same conclusion. The lab would answer one question, maybe the only question that mattered now. If the evidence at the crime scene belonged to him, then the double was irrelevant. But if it did not, then someone had built an entire system around making him believe he was guilty. Andrey opened the apartment door, stepped into the hallway, and for the first time since finding the hidden room, he allowed himself one clear thought. Either I am hunting myself or someone has learned how to become me. The lab was colder than usual, not in temperature, in intention. Andrey felt it the moment he stepped inside. Places like this were built for certainty, measurements, numbers, proof. And tonight, that was exactly what he needed. Not theory, not memory, something that could not be rewritten. The technician looked up as Andrey entered, surprised, then cautious. Detective? Andrey didn't slow down. I need a comparison, he said. The tone left no room for questions. Still, the man hesitated. At this hour? Yes. A pause. Between what? Andrey placed the folder on the table. His hand lingered on it for a moment, because once it was opened, there would be no return to uncertainty. My DNA, he said. The technician froze. And the samples from the crime scene. Silence. That's not standard procedure. Andrey looked at him. This isn't a standard case. That was enough. The technician nodded slowly. Give me what you have. Minutes passed. Slow. Measured. Machines activated. Screens lit up. Data flowed. The quiet hum of analysis filled the room. Andrey stood still. He didn't sit, didn't pace, didn't speak, because this was the moment everything would either collapse or lock into place. His phone vibrated. He ignored it. The technician worked carefully, too carefully, which meant he already suspected something was wrong, or worse, that something was right. Andrey walked closer, not to rush, to observe patterns, even here. The man avoided eye contact, checked the same data twice, adjusted something that didn't need adjusting. Delay. Just say it, Andrey said quietly. The technician stopped, didn't turn, not immediately. Then, slowly, he faced him. Detective. A pause. This doesn't make sense. Andrey's voice didn't change. Say it. The man swallowed, then said, It's a match. Silence. Not partial, not close. Exact. Andrey didn't move because now there was no space left for interpretation. How exact? He asked. Full match. No deviation, no doubt. Andrey closed his eyes briefly, not in disbelief, in confirmation. This wasn't done to me, he said quietly. I did this. The words landed differently this time, heavier, more complete. His phone vibrated again. He picked it up. Message. You were always going to find that. Andrey stared at the screen. No, he said quietly. I was always meant to. That distinction mattered. A pause, then another message. And now? Andrey didn't answer immediately, because now the question had changed. Not who did it, not how it happened. Why didn't you stop? The message came again. This time he didn't need to read it. He already knew. Why didn't you stop? Andrey leaned against the table. The lab felt smaller now, compressed, focused, because this question had no external answer, only internal. He closed his eyes, and this time the memory didn't disappear. It came in fragments, sharp, controlled, a white room, glass walls, people behind them, watching, recording, him standing in the centre, explaining, calm, certain. We don't erase memory, he said. We isolate access. A pause. Identity is not memory. Another pause. It's pattern. Andrey's eyes opened. That was it. That was the core. He stepped away from the table, slowly. This wasn't about control, he said. This was about proof. The technician stared at him, confused. What proof? He asked. Andrey looked at him but didn't answer directly. That a person remains the same even without memory. Silence. And did they? The technician asked carefully. Andrey didn't respond because now he understood something worse. The results weren't clean, they weren't consistent, which meant, sometimes, the person didn't remain the same. His phone vibrated again. You saw the results. Andrey's jaw tightened. Yes, he said. I'm looking at them. A pause, then one final message. And you were the worst outcome. Silence. That landed deeper than anything before, not because it accused him, because it defined him. Andrey didn't move, because now everything aligned, the room, the victims, the structure, the device, the memory gaps, the repetition. This wasn't a crime. This was a failed experiment, and he was both the creator and the result. He picked up the folder, closed it. Decision. Not emotional, structural. I need the full data set, he said. The technician blinked. What data? Andrey looked at him. All of it. A pause. Because if I built this... He stepped back, turned toward the exit. Then I also built a way to stop it. His phone vibrated one last time. Message. You already tried. Andrey stopped at the door, then said quietly, then this time... A pause. I won't fail. Silence followed him out, but it wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting. End of chapter 5.